how did this start and what's going on? It essentially is the October 7th of the Druze people in Syria.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's October 7th of the Druze in Syria. They are shooting Druze men just because they're Druze. They're raping their women just because they're Druze, and they're kidnapping their children just because they're Druze. They're beheading people, walking in the street with their heads, mocking them, things that we saw on October 7th. They're grabbing religious sheikhs and shaving their mustaches, which is like one of the symbols of the Druze.
Hey, well, welcome to the Jewish Road Podcast. My name's Matt Davis, and hello over there.
Hey, I'm Ron Davis.
Yep, and we have a very special guest here. We're going to get right to it because there's a lot to talk about. Mansor Ashkar, how are you? Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, guys, here and for giving me this platform to come and speak on behalf of my people, the Druze, who are being right now slaughtered. An actual ethnic cleansing, actual genocide attempt that is happening in the Middle East. And for some reason, mainstream media is not covering it. And they're even trying to hush it down. And we're not seeing any demonstration. And all these pro-Palestinians that were all about human rights when Arabs are being killed, why are you not talking now? Why is the streets of London are completely empty? So it's very, very kind of you for giving me here this platform, and I appreciate that.
Well, you already said a whole bunch of things that need definition. And so when you just said that your people, the Druze, let's define a couple things, because if you haven't been to Israel, maybe you don't know the Druze. But you did not say the Jews. You consider yourself Druze, Arab, Israeli. Which
right.
one? Are you one of those? Are you all of them? And what do those mean?
I am a proud all of this. You see, the Druze, they see themselves as descendant of Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, the father of Zipporah. And he welcomed Moses when he ran to the desert as a young man, terrified, alone, fled from Egypt, who wanted to kill him. And he welcomed him in, and he taught him all the ways of how to rule, how to govern, how to be a shepherd, how to take care of his people. And he loved him so much that he even allowed him to marry his daughter and later on send him with a blessing. So the Druze, from the beginning of their origin of the faith, they see themselves descendant of Jethro, and that's why they feel very connected to Jews and Christians. But in general, what they did is basically started, I call it a New Age religion that is 1,000 years old. They came and said, God spoke to different people around the world through different prophets, different teachings, but teaching all to the same God. And that's why one of their secret names was Al-Muwahhidun. And Muwahhidun meaning the people that believe in one God. Now, Islam in the beginning, because that was under the Islam, the Caliph of the Islam, Hakim bi-Amrillah, and that was, there was stationed in Egypt, very quickly realized that as per their definition, the Druze will be considered as kuffar, because they don't think that Muhammad is the last prophet, the seal of the prophets, and they started killing them and trying to annihilate them. And that's when the Druze fled from Egypt and went up north to Israel, Lebanon, and Syria. And they've been hiding and living in the mountains. So when you go to a Druze village, most likely it's going to be in a mountain. And most likely they're going to be farmers and fighters. Because for the last 1,000 years, they had to literally fight to survive. Now, in all Muslim countries, actually only in Israel, it's different, the Druze have been also hiding their religion. So it's considered a very secretive religion. And in many cases, they will even not admit that they're Druze. They'll say, we're Muslims. They'll say, just to survive, because the Muslims used to always come and test them. So are you really Muslim? If that's the case, let me marry your daughter. I don't know what. And they don't allow, marrying outside that religion. The only place that the Druze actually have complete freedom of religion is in Israel. That was the only place that this Arab minority was allowed to fully practice its faith. And hence why the Druze and the Jews made one of the most magnificent covenants called the blood covenant between the Druze and the Jews. And in Israel, they're the only two religions that have all rights and all obligations. If you're a Muslim or a Christian in Israel, you don't have to serve in the army. Israel says, we're not going to force you, but we're still going to defend you. We're going to give you every right possible, but you don't have to. Still, many do. More, I would say, from the Christian world, but even some Muslims. Druze don't have a say in that, just like the Jews. We all go to the army, we all serve, we all defend this country and keep it safe from, as you're seeing right now, the jihadists around Israel. This is not a one-off. This is like quite common around Israel, what we're seeing right now. And that what would have happened probably to Israel if we would have allowed Palestine to get out of their boundaries, or Hamas to break in, or Hezbollah, or even Syria. The way that they're slaughtering the Druze now would have been exactly the same way that they would have been slaughtering the Jews and the Christians and anyone that will come in their way.
Now, you've had an opportunity yourself. You have been part of, growing up in Israel, you've been part of the military and served in some of the most elite forces. Is that right?
That's correct. I was in one of the elite units of the IDF that was mainly focused on hostage rescue. And when it comes to the special forces, and many people that come from the army will tell you that hostage rescue operations are usually one of the most complicated, I would say. And because you need to be so trained and constantly training. Like if I go now, I'm not fit. You need to always train to be able to discern between the good guys and the bad guys in a split of a second. And there's only a few units in the IDF that have these capabilities. There's many units from the Special Forces that have the capability to get involved. They call them Yichidat Al-Vut, meaning if they're under a house, they will wait for us to come and rescue the hostages. But if they will start slaughtering everyone in the building, then they can intervene and go in and save the situation. And I also I was an officer in the IDF, and I did a role as a negotiator for counterterrorism. And I studied psychology and the history of Islam, Judaism, Christianity. Basically, how many psychos live in the Middle East. And I did all that spectrum, but that gave me a very good picture of Israel, the IDF, the Special Forces. Being as an Arab who grew up in a religious Druze house, I lived among Christians and Jews for most of my life. Most of my best friends are born-again Christians and Jews. I used to teach Bible at some churches in Israel. I used to take some youth for hikes around the desert and teach them, all the stories where it happened. Until today, many of them hate me because I made them really walk. I made them climb mountains. But they remember every lesson that I taught them. So that's kind of in a nutshell. But now I'm hosting my own podcast, which is the Mansor Ashkar podcast, and I'm trying to tell. It's funny to say it. My hope was to just share all kind of interesting stories and insights from the Special Forces and from the life of a father, as a father that I am, about fatherhood and psychology. But I found myself doing more and more videos explaining about the Middle East and about Israel and about the life of Arabs in the Middle East, just because we're under attack. We're under attack from so many fronts, and one of them is the social media front, which is we're some might even say we're losing on that front just because we're minorities. We're really tiny in that ocean of hate.
I want to talk about Syria in a minute, but I'm also just very curious, what was October 7th like for you? And given even like the current situation of, there's about 50 hostages still left. Like you have this experience on the hostage negotiation rescue side of things, but also like your perspective on Israel and going through all of this. We were just there last month and talked to lots of people, but from your perspective, what did that feel like?
All right. So I think we want to open things up and don't want to hold back, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Let's be honest as much as I can with my answer about that. My first response was great disappointment. Great disappointment. As someone who was an officer in the IDF, we had one job in that area, to protect that border. And when you look at the capabilities of the IDF, what we did to Iran, the greatest enemy of Israel, we literally took them down in several hours. What we did to Hezbollah, in several hours we took them down, and later on we kept doing the missions, but we completely, dismantled them. So Israel is a very strong nation with a very capable army, but somehow we failed drastically. And I know many of my colleagues from the Shabak, from the Mossad, from the Special Forces, from the IDF will come and admit it was a very, very hurtful thing to see. How did we allow this to happen to our people? How did we fall asleep on our watch? And followed by a lot of anger when that happened, because there's something about these jihadists that they don't cherish life, and they like to humiliate everything that might be seen holy to us. There is religions that cherish life. When you look at the Druze, the Christians, the Jews, every death just hurts us. We feel that the whole world just got lost. And watching these images of seeing these jihadists coming and slaughtering and butchering and killing my people, the Jewish people, was making me very, very upset. I was getting very upset when I was watching that. And I was in Texas when that happened. I just came to Texas to visit some friends, and I went to visit an Arab Christian friend from Beersheba. His name is Amir Jiris, if some might know him. So I was staying in his house, and I woke up and I saw these news, and the first thing I did is I called my unit and I said, can I come? And they were in the midst of the fighting. There were actually 4 of them just left their home. One was in the airport, came without a weapon. He came and he started collecting weapons from dead Hamas terrorists. And the 4 of them managed to save a whole community. They fought against, I think, 40 to 50 terrorists. And they fended them off. They took many of them down. And then they managed to bring an Apache helicopter, which happened to be also, by the way, a born-again Christian, one of them at least, that I know very well. And they saved the situation. But they told me, don't come now. If you come, there's no way you can get into us. Even reinforcements can't get into us. That's why the Apache had to go and save them. So hearing that, that's when I decided to open my camera and film my first video and start countering the lies that we're going to start seeing in the West. Because I knew, I studied that, I lived that. I was a negotiator. I lived that, I went behind enemy lines. I went undercover. I know these things very well. So I knew that the world is going to start portraying Israel as an apartheid state, as a Nazi regime, as the bad guys, as racist. And I knew as an Arab that I have the supreme authority, you might call it, to come and debunk these lies, me and my family. As for me and my house, we can tell you exactly how is life in Israel. So that's when I started doing videos, and that's when I rolled basically into what I'm doing right now. It just never stopped. I thought it's going to be 1 month that I'll do this and then go back to what I want to do, but it's been more than 650 days and we're still ongoing with that.
Yeah. You mentioned when October 7th happened, it was such a disappointment. And I suppose a lot of that is because of Israel has historically been so powerful in this region of the world. And, considering that, you have said before that the thing that's really respected in the Middle East is power and strength. And how do you see Israel now in the things that they're doing right now and going forward, carrying this through? How should they be moving forward in terms of what has happened and what's been going on for almost 2 years now?
That's a great question, because just like you said it, that's something that the West doesn't understand. The Middle East speaks in a different language. And power and respect is the main language that they understand. If you don't show power, you don't have respect. If you don't show respect, they're going to step over you and they're going to kill you. And Israel, for a very long time, was trying to appease many, many players around the world in the West, and also hoping that maybe if they show willingness to give up, to come to their side. They gave them Gaza. It didn't help. You saw what happened. They gave them completely. Israel completely got out of Gaza. I was there when that happened. So the pinnacle of that tragedy was on October 7. Because if you think about it, why on the earth would Hamas or Hezbollah even dare to shoot a rocket at Israel? Israel is so much stronger than them. Why do the Houthis even dare to shoot a missile at America? They don't shoot a missile at Russia. Mm-hmm. They will not dare to shoot a missile at China, because they know that they will annihilate them. They will erase them from the face of the earth. So they speak their language. There's a very famous story where some Lebanese government and terrorist organization kidnapped a few Russians back in the 80s, I think. And the Russians sent their Spetsnaz, and they went and they kidnapped back a lot of Lebanese and started, cutting their heads and doing terrible stuff and sending it with boxes to their families, and basically said, for every hour that you don't give us back our hostages, we're going to send you more. Since that, they gave them back the hostages. And since that day, there was never a kidnap of a Russian official in Lebanon, because they spoke the language of the Middle East, which they showed that you don't mess with us. Now, after October 7, Israel started to speak that language. And right now, they're not playing around. Anyone that comes and messes with them, they just take him down. And you start seeing suddenly how the Middle East is getting more and more stabilized in that aspect until what happened in Syria right now. But there's a different reason for that. But Assad regime fell down. Iran got dismantled. Hezbollah basically almost disappeared. Hamas is almost crushed because they're speaking the language of the Arab man, which is power and respect. And it's very primal. But here in the West, we started forgetting that because we got so comfortable and we have so many ways of systems in our society that protect us, human rights, justice, law system, etc. And we forgot that if we don't have power and respect in the Middle East, you're going to be completely run.
Yeah. Let's go to Syria. This is about a week old. And all of a sudden we start to hear, it depends on who you're following, who you're listening to, but there are attacks, not against the Druze in Israel or even Lebanon, but Syria. How did this start and what's going on? It essentially is the October 7th of the Druze people in Syria.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's October 7th of the Druze in Syria. They are shooting Druze men just because they're Druze. They're raping their women just because they're Druze. And they're kidnapping their children just because they're Druze. They're beheading people, walking in the streets with their heads, mocking them. Things that we saw on October 7th. They're grabbing religious sheikhs and shaving their mustaches, which is like one of the symbols of the Druze. Just like the Jews have the
beards.
Yes.
The payas.
Yeah.
The mustache.
The Jews have the payas.
The Jews have the payas.
Yeah. And the Druze have the mustache. So we saw that in the Holocaust when they were shaving the peot of the Jews and the beard. So the same thing they're doing to humiliate the Druze. And not only the Druze, by the way, also the Christians. There's a Christian community living in that mountain. And there were already several Christian families that got massacred, including the family of a pastor that completely got massacred there. And followed by that, just a few months ago, there was a bombing of the church of Mar Elias, where they killed about 27, I think, or 30 people with a suicide bombing. And before that was the massacre of the Alawites and the Christians, where allegedly people say that more than 10,000 people got massacred. Wow. In the most gruesome way. And by the way, as this massacre that is happening on the Druze, that is perpetrated by the government, followed by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So Jolani is the one that led that attack. Don't let anyone fool you about that. There was an audio recording that was sent, and I translated it and I put it on my platforms to English and to Hebrew. Basically, he's telling the fighters, please don't do the same mistake that we've done with the Christians. Don't use your phones. We're begging you. Slaughter them, slit their throats, shave their beards, massacre them, but don't film it. And when that came, to know that the army is coming with tribes of jihadists to completely slaughter the Druze, that's when we realized, okay, this is very serious. Now, we asked the question that how did it start? The excuse that people are using now is that I think about half a year ago, there was a fake audio recording that allegedly was made by a Druze sheikh who mocked the Prophet Muhammad. Now, this was proven to be fake, but no one cared. That was an excuse to go and slaughter the Druze. And only Israel stepped in and said, if you do that, we will kill you. And they told Jolani, if you even come southern of Damascus with your forces, we will take them down. And that attack stopped. Meanwhile, the Druze also were able to send a religious delegation into Israel to go and visit the memorial place for Jethro, Sid al-Nabi Shaib. And the images of the Druze from Syria with the Druze from Israel hugging and Israel welcoming them peacefully and as an enemy country, allowing them to come and taking care of them, really upset the radical Sunni in Syria, and they made it a vendetta that they want to go and basically annihilate the Druze. Now, all of that, people might think like, what happened? Why is that happening? And I think it's very important to lay the foundation to why is it happening. Syria is not just a Muslim country. It's a radical Sunni Salafi regime. For those of you who don't know, Salafi is the groups in Islam that choose to follow to the extremist of extremes everything in the Islam. Basically we want to go exactly to how the Prophet lived, and any place that is open for interpretation, they take it to the extreme. A great example is in Afghanistan, for example, how they're treating women. Women in the beginning were not allowed to show their hair, and then later on not show their face, and then even show their eyes, and then later on not even to speak because they might get some jihadist dude horny, so they shouldn't speak next to him. And even now, not allowed to leave out of the house because the smell of a woman might turn a good Muslim man to sin. Muslim girls are not allowed to go to school, etc. So Salafis will take everything to the extreme, and Syria is run by Salafis. It's not a surprise. I mean, the leader of Syria is an ISIS guy. So inside that Salafi religion, and that's Quran proper, Christians and Druze, basically anyone that is not Muslim, is not allowed to ride a horse, wield a sword, build a church, build a mosque. And they've been demanding that the minorities, the Christians and Druze, will disarm themselves. Now, you can understand why the Christians and the Druze will come and say, wait, well, we don't feel comfortable disarming. Like, until yesterday, Jawlani, you were ISIS. You were sieging our cities, and you raped our daughters, you killed our children. And now you took this government not by democracy, you took it by force.
Right.
And you want us to disarm ourselves. Meanwhile, he's arming the Bedouins and the ISIS and Al-Qaeda, even foreign fighters. So all of that, the Druze were one of the main ones to stand tall and said, we will not fall under Sharia law. We're very sorry. And that's when he sent his people to go and annihilate them. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's a religious war. It's nothing else. They will try to portray it in the media like it's some clashes between. It's not. It's a religious war for full-on ethnically cleansing Syria from Christians and Druze.
So some people don't pay attention to this, but you've mentioned Jawlani, also known as Al-Shara, but our president, Trump, was shaking hands with him just a couple months ago. What's the backstory on this guy, and why can't he be trusted?
Well, first of all, the fact that President Trump shook his hand and Europe invited him is one of the main reasons that we're seeing the slaughter right now. He misread the map as a green light and support from the West to his regime, which is a radical Salafi regime, and then he thought, okay, they are with me, they want me to join the Abraham Accord, so he went and did what he did, and that backfired at him right now. Now, here is what really bothers, and that's rumors that are starting to spread quite a lot among, I'm talking to people in Syria, in Sweden that are fighting. I'm talking to the families that are behind. I'm talking to Druze and Jews around Israel. If you remember in the beginning of the war, Israel started sending the Air Force to go and take down these jihadists and basically reach a ceasefire. They ran away with their tail between their legs. The army and the jihadists all ran away from the mountain. They came to kill the Christians and the Druze. Israel came, shot them down. They ran away because Israel is very good at killing jihadists and usually never back up from that. But then after one day, the ceasefire was broken and Israel stopped intervening. And the attack got intensified. And for about 3 to 4 days, there haven't been a single support being sent by Israel. And a lot of pressures in Israel. Why are you not helping? Up into why are they not even sending air supplies? Israel have air superiority. Why aren't they dropping medicine, food for them? People there are starving. People there are dying from diseases. There's bodies in the streets for days right now. And they're attacking them with drones. They're ethnically cleansing that mountain. And before that, Israel warned Jawlani and basically shot a missile into the Pentagon of Syria. When Jawlani, and then Jawlani the coward ran away to Turkey. And since then, they've been stalling Israel. So what people are starting to understand now, the only one that can actually stop Israel from going and saving the Druze is America. Israel does not listen to Europe when it comes to policies about the Middle East. I have no idea what they're talking about. Israel does not listen to anyone. The only one that they would listen to is America. And it feels like America has been fooled with very bad advice. I don't think that they have bad intention, but they're all trying to make Jawlani look good. So the whole West, Europe and America, have become a PR agency for an ISIS terrorist, trying to make him look good. And why is that? Now, here comes the interesting part. If Israel would have went and saved the Druze like they wanted, that would have made Jawlani look really bad. Because right now, he is sending his soldiers. They're admitting that's his soldiers. They're even saying our orders were to come and exterminate the Druze. Official soldiers are saying that. So he's saying his soldiers to slaughter his own Syrian citizens. The Druze are citizens of Syria. The Christians are citizens of Syria. And Israel is going to go and save them from him? That's going to be the collapse of that regime. Everybody would know exactly, okay, that regime is ISIS. They haven't changed. So Apparently, from what we're hearing, is the Saudis have been, or someone has been pressuring America to keep Israel out of the picture, because if Israel intervene, it will make Jawlani look bad, and hoping that Jawlani will be the one to go and save. Now, Jawlani tried to say, yes, I'm going to go and stop the massacre, but every time that he sent his soldiers to go and stop it, what happened is his soldiers end up joining the fight and slaughtering more. And then again, Jawlani, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to send more forces. They joined the fight also. And not only that, they're fooling the world as we know it. They even made a fatwa that is saying, fatwa is basically a Muslim blessing that you can do something. Let's say the Pope can make a fatwa, call it, and say you shouldn't eat pork anymore. Then a lot of Catholics will stop eating pork. So that means that's some kind of a religious verdict that says, okay, from now on. So they made a fatwa that says that any Muslim fighter, including foreign fighters, that will go and slaughter people in that mountain of Sueda, that's Christians and Druze, can take their wife and their daughters as sex slaves. And then you start having more jihadists coming. I was talking to one of the Druze men that was fighting in this mountain, and he's been sending me audio recording and just telling me what's happening. And he's a sniper. And for the last 3 days, he's been fighting with his company with a little Christian girl that they rescued. After her family was killed, they rescued that girl. And every time he's sending me, and he's really worried that she might even die, he's saying, I would rather give my life that she doesn't die, but her parents were slaughtered in front of her eyes. And at one time, he was up in a building, because he goes up to send me a message, because the Syrian regime have cut the internet on them. So he was up in one of the towers in El Sueda, in the mountain, and he was showing me a video, and he says, you see that dust? And I see the entire horizon just full of dust, something like from Mad Max. And he says, these are all the foreign fighters that are coming to slaughter us now and steal our children and take the girls that I just rescued. And he said, where is Israel? Where is America? Where is the West? Why is anyone helping us? We've been fighting here alone. He's, by the way, fighting in his company with some Christian men that are fighting beside him, shoulder to shoulder, to protect their families. Where is the world? Why are they leaving us alone? Why do we need to face hordes of these Muslims, I call them, of these orcs that are coming again and again at them, and no one's interfering? And it's all because they don't want to damage the image of Jawlani, which is a very dire mistake that people are paying with a lot of blood for.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, Mansor, because there was a point in time, and let me just maybe you can speak to the timing of this so we can all, get it into a proper perspective. But there was a point in time when this happened that the Druze, the Israeli Druze, started crossing over the border into Syria to defend family, friends, and so on. And the reports that I've read said that Bibi Netanyahu said, stand back, don't go. We're going to go in and take care of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it seemed like Israel was stepping in at that point when the rest of the world was just watching.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a timing in that where it happened and then they pulled back, or what happened?
So just like you said, the Druze in Israel were very frustrated. And I will even give you more details. There's about more than 2,000 strong former Israeli IDF reservists and etc. Druze, mostly. Some of them are Jews, by the way, also, that went and signed a waiver and said, the government of Israel, please, we were willing to risk our life, to give our life even, to defend Israel. Now we're willing to go and risk our life to defend the Druze and the Christians in that mountain. Let us go and fight there. These jihadists, they fight like clowns. They don't know how to fight. They're running with flip-flops. They have this, they call this itkil Allah way of shooting, like trust in God. They shoot over their head and they shout Allahu Akbar, and they're hoping that the bullets will be guided by Allah to go and hit the enemies. That's literally a tactic that they're using. I'll tell you another tactic that is crazy. It's called istashhid. When they are running and fighting, if one of their fellow jihadists, gets shot and fall, they were not going to go and rescue him. They won't go and drag him to safety. What they say, they'll shout istashhid, which means become a shaheed and accept your death. And then it will take his ammunition and keep running. And there's sometimes funny, crazy videos where you see a guy just got shot in the leg. And he's asking his friend, Sam, he says, Stashhid. He said, what do you mean Stashhid? I just got shot in the leg, So they don't have the concept even of preserving life. So if Israel would have allowed the Druze and the Jews to go there, or if Israel would have went themselves, they would have easily stopped that massacre. Easily. But something held them. And until now, Someone is holding Israel. And that's why I always say to the West, you need to understand, we know the Middle East better than anyone. We live there. Trust us when we tell you that we understand that region. We know who are the bad guys and what's going on. And instead of taking advice from very rich Arab countries that don't have the same interests that you have, remember who rejoiced on 9/11 and who didn't. Remember who gave baklawas in the streets and who didn't. The Jews didn't. The Druze didn't. The Christians didn't. A lot of the Muslim world did. And when we see Jawlani, there was an interview with him not long ago where he's even asked, how did you feel on 9/11? A live interview. And he came and said, I would lie to you if I wasn't rejoicing, like many, many Muslims around the world. I'm not saying all, but many. So America need to be very careful. It doesn't matter how rich they are. They don't have the same interests that you have. And I'll even add power and respect. That's one of the things that you need to understand. If Denmark realized that they're stronger than Switzerland, or let's say it the other way, Switzerland's stronger than Denmark. There are a lot of guns in Switzerland, a lot of bunkers. There's no way that Switzerland's going to attack Denmark. They don't want to attack them. They don't want to conquer them. If America was not strong, or Israel was not strong, they will attack you. They will take you. So the only reason they're not, or they want to be your friends, is because you're strong. And that is not fully an ally. Israel would not attack America if America was bleeding or on its knees. They will go to its help. Same thing, vice versa. So you need to really know who are your true allies. Doesn't matter how much money they have or if they buy your private jet or not. That's something that is very, very important. And I don't want to say too much further than that because I'm super thankful for this administration. I mean, thank God that they're the ones in power right now and not the ones before them. But still, there's a lot of crazy things happening.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that with all of this taking place, just horrendous massacre and, invasion again of people, that, you talk about the media and the misinformation of the media and all of that, but this isn't just a crisis that's a Syrian crisis. This is a worldwide crisis that the world needs to recognize what's going on, and they're not doing it.
Well, and by the time that they actually picked up on the story, the story was Israel is bombing Syria with no context as to what's going on.
Yeah, that's insane. I was invited to the Charlie Kirk show, and these guys are great, and they gave me a platform to come and speak. And the first question that the guy asked me is, we just woke up to see that Israel bombed Syria. Can you tell us what's happening? And I told him, it's very funny that your mainstream media forgot to tell you for the last 3 days, Syria have been ethnically cleansing Druze and Christians, killing them.
Right.
They were just right now, it's surfacing now, he's an American Druze that went for a vacation in Syria, and him and his father and his brothers and his cousin, the whole family was rounded, taken the streets, and then executed. There's Christians that are being killed, tortured there. And the mainstream media didn't say a word about that. And then also Israel started negotiating with Syria, telling them, stop it. We will not let you. Didn't say a word about that. Then Israel even intervened. Just think about the fact. Israel has been engaged with a war at 7 fronts for more than 650 days. We went to some serious wars in that time also, including very far with Iran. So our army has been engaged in that war for so long. It's wearing off. Our equipment, our people, the country, the economy. Why would Israel even bother to go and attack tanks and artillery and jihadists in an enemy country to defend people that are not Jewish, not Israelis, from their own government with nothing to gain from that? They're not conquering that land. They're not getting any political leverage. So just the fact that Israel is the only one that is trying to stop a genocide, and mainstream media will come and tell you that Israel went and attacked Syria, is so, it's not a mistake even. It's just something very evil. It's very wrong. It's malicious.
Yeah.
It's not accidental.
It's telling on the rest of the world because, as evil is parading, itself openly in the streets of Soweto and Damascus, it's only Israel that has stepped up to act. And where's the rest of the world?
Where are the world and why are they holding them back? That is a serious question I think people should ask.
Mansor, this is the first of, I think, many conversations we'll have in the future, and so appreciate your insight. Here's where I've been glued to this. I've lost days just watching. I've never seen, like, October 7th was one level of atrocity. And I watched this video, and 3 men brought to the roof of a building and told to jump to their deaths. And if they didn't, they would be shot. And obviously they're reluctant, and they get to the edge and they don't want to go. They don't want to die. They don't want to jump. And all of a sudden they start getting shot at, and then they jump over. I see people holding heads, decapitated heads. Like, I can't believe it. And I look at all of this and I think, is there any hope? As you look at this, like, is there, what will become of the Middle East?
Many people might not like my answer, but, sometimes the truth hurts, guys. At least we live there. That's what we see. The only hope for minorities, that's Jews, Christians, Druze, to ever live in peace in the Middle East is if they don't live under Sharia law, and if they don't live under a Muslim regime. And let the Muslims sort their stuff. Let them sort their stuff. They have a lot of things to work on. There's great guys there. There's very bad people there. Quite a lot of them. Let them sort their stuff. But don't let them rule over Christians, over Druze, over Jews, because we see what happened when they do. And in Syria, these minorities will never live in peace as long as they're living under this Muslim radical regime. So I think the West, if they actually care, they should let them have their own independence, or at least have demilitarized zone that they can live in peace there and not under Sharia. Look at Lebanon. Lebanon used to be a great country. It was a Christian country. And the moment it became Muslim, look at it now. Syria the same. It's happening all over. So let Islam deal with the nonsense and the craziness that they have. And they have a lot of work to do. They need to start separating religion from state from the beginning, and not letting radical Salafi jihadists rule over the country, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. So I think it will never end as long as you live under the religion of the sword. And they call themselves, Islam calls itself, we are the religion of the sword. And as long as you live under them, there's going to be slavery, there's going to be executions, there's going to be human rights violation, no women's right, nothing. So I think if you ask me, the West need to learn to detach himself from these radicals, stop being their friends. Don't go to war with them. Just let them, you go there, I go here. Stop bringing migration from them. A lot of the people that we're seeing right now rejoicing with glee in their eyes in Syria, I'm going to tell you a surprise. Many of them are in Canada. Many of them are in Europe. Same people.
Yeah.
I've seen them in the streets here. They actually walk in the streets of Germany right now, cheering for what Jolani is saying and saying that they should slaughter all the Druze. So the same thing like they rejoiced while October 7 was happening, they're rejoicing the same thing while another October is happening. And they're living in the West. So the West need to learn. These are not your friends.
Yeah. Well,
let them fix themselves. And if they fix their ways, there's something to talk about.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
It seems that they are spreading. It seems like Europe is gone. And, I just was reading some reports that, even in England, there are something along the lines of 900 no-go sections where, the police won't even intervene in there. And if you find yourself in one of those sections, you're walking in danger. And, we even have it coming here to America. Michigan is going down. And look who we got running for mayor in New York. If he gets in as mayor, it's going to be the greatest exodus of Jewish people out of New York City that you've ever seen.
It's insane. I'll tell you what, in Germany, in Berlin, the police have made an official announcement asking Jews and LGBTQ community to stay away from certain neighborhoods and also to hide identifying marks. So not to wear the gay flag or dress like gay, I guess, and also not to have the Star of David in Germany, which is Berlin, considered to be one of the most liberal. So even there, they've brought these foreigners that made it unsafe for Jews, for gay people, for straight people, for Christians to live in. And what do they need to wake up? And I'm telling you what, it's going to happen in the U.S., it's going to happen in New York, it's going to happen everywhere that you let these radicals come and establish Sharia law. That's what's going to happen. If it didn't happen, it's just because they don't have the numbers yet. Once they have the numbers, they will do it.
Mansor, thank you for, at very short notice, thank you for jumping on. I know that you're busy and you're talking to all kinds of people. getting the word out, and we'll do our part as well. We stand with you as blood brothers, and we love the Jews and the Druze, and we promise to be praying for and standing up for and being a voice for the Druze people, not only in Israel or Lebanon, but also in Syria. So thank you so much, and shalom to you. We thank you for the time.
Thank you, and God bless.